In the winter of 1872, the town of Bolton, England, gathered for one of the most popular entertainments of the Victorian age, the circus. That night, performing under the name Sardi, a lion tamer named Thomas McCarthy prepared for his act in Pablo Fanck's Circus Royal. In those days, wild animal performances were a thrilling spectacle. Crowds loved the danger, the roars, the illusion of control. But behind the scenes, safety barely existed, and training methods were far from kind. McCarthy had done this routine many times before. He stepped into the iron cage, cracking his whip, facing several lions he had spent years working with. At first, everything seemed normal. The animals obeyed, the crowd cheered. But then, something changed. No one knew what triggered it. Maybe a noise from the crowd, maybe a flick of movement. Suddenly, one lion lunged, and then another. Within seconds, the cage turned into chaos. Handlers rushed forward, striking bars, shouting, trying to pull the animals back. But it was too late. When they finally reached him, McCarthy was already lying motionless on the ground. The audience sat frozen, not realizing the act had become real. Thomas McCarthy died that night, one of the first public reminders that the price of spectacle.
On March 22nd, 1978, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, the great Karl Wallenda, patriarch of the legendary Flying Wallendas, prepared for one last walk. He was 73 years old, but age had never stopped him before. For Karl, the high wire was not just a stage, it was home. That day, he set out to cross between the two towers of the Condado Plaza Hotel. The wire stretched more than 230 meters long and 36 meters above the ground. There were no safety nets, no harnesses, just Karl, his balance pole, and the wind. Hundreds of spectators gathered below, staring upward as he stepped onto the wire. At first, every move was steady, practiced, confident. He had done this all his life. But halfway across, a sudden gust of wind swept through the gap between the buildings. The cable began to sway. Karl tried to steady himself, shifting the 9-meter pole, fighting to regain balance. For a brief moment, it looked like he might recover, but the wind came again, stronger this time. He leaned left, then right, and in a heartbeat, lost control. The crowd gasped as his body fell through the empty air, striking the pavement 36 meters below. On January 30th, 1962, inside the Coliseum at the Detroit State Fair, the world-famous family of daredevils, the Flying Wallendas, prepared to perform their most dangerous act, the legendary 7-person human pyramid on the high wire. There were no safety nets, only balance, trust, and absolute perfection stood between life and death. More than 7,000 people filled the arena that night, waiting in silence as the family stepped onto the wire 10 meters above the ground. Slowly, carefully, they began to form the living tower. 3 on the bottom, 2 in the middle, 1 above, and Karl Wallenda's son at the very top. For a moment, it was flawless, a vision of beauty and control. The crowd gasped in awe as the pyramid moved across the cable, each step measured to the millimeter. Then, in an instant, everything changed. One of the men on the lower level lost his balance. A single slip and the entire structure collapsed. Bodies tumbled from the wire. Gasps turned into screams as 7 performers crashed onto the concrete floor below. 2 men, Richard Fahn and Dieter Schepp, were killed instantly. Mario Wallenda, Karl's adopted son, survived but was paralyzed from the waist down. The rest of the troupe suffered.
On June 29, 2013, tragedy struck the world of Cirque du Soleil. 31-year-old performer Sarah Gaillard-Guillot was in the middle of a breathtaking show called Ka at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. She was a mother of two, an aerial silk artist who had performed with Cirque since 2006. That night, more than 1,800 people filled the theater to watch one of the most complex productions ever created. A rotating stage, wire battles, and acrobatics performed high above the ground. In the final act, Sarah prepared for a controlled descent, a move she had done countless times before. But as the stage tilted and the music swelled, something went terribly wrong. Her safety cable slipped from its pulley system and snapped. Sarah fell nearly 28 meters, striking the edge of the moving platform before plunging into the orchestra pit below. On August 20th, 1994, in Honolulu, Hawaii, 4,000 people, many of them families with children, gathered inside the Neil Blaisdell Center to watch the Circus International. Among the performers was a 20-year-old African elephant named Tyke. She weighed over 3,800 kilograms and had been touring for years. Handlers had long noticed signs of distress, erratic behavior, restlessness, and fear. A year earlier in Pennsylvania, Tyke had already injured a groom and attacked a trainer. But despite the warnings, the show went on. That evening, under the bright circus lights, trainer Alan Campbell led Tyke into the ring for her routine. At first, everything seemed normal. Children laughed, the band played, and the massive elephant followed her cues. Then, without warning, something snapped. Tyke turned on Campbell. She knocked him to the ground with her trunk, then stomped on him again and again. At first, the audience thought it was part of the act, until the screams began. Parents grabbed their children and ran. Blood stained the sand as Campbell lay motionless. Another handler, Dallas Beckwith, rushed in to help, but Tyke attacked him too, throwing him across the ring and crushing his ribs. Panic spread through the crowd as Tyke charged the barriers, shattering the steel gates and bursting into the seating area. She stormed through the exit and out into the streets of downtown Honolulu. For the next 30 minutes, chaos filled the city. A 3-ton elephant, terrified and bleeding, ran through traffic while police cars surrounded her. Tranquilizer darts were fired, but none worked. Tyke continued to charge, smashing cars and knocking down fences. In the end, police opened fire. 86 bullets before she finally collapsed on Kalakaua Avenue. Alan Campbell was dead. Beckwith survived with severe injuries. And Tyke, the elephant who just wanted to escape, lay dying on the street as sirens echoed through Honolulu.